In the aftermath of September 11th and the subsequent invasions of Afghanistan and Iraq, theorists faced a stark realization about how global dominance was shifting. The aggressive, unilateral nature of the global war on terror challenged the traditional post-colonial vocabulary of fixed geographic borders and slow-moving empires. Scholar Anya Lumba noted that as international laws were bypassed in real time, it became harder than ever to view our world as simply post-colonial. While the economic rhetoric of the early 2000s promised a decentralized, borderless globe, the visual reality on the ground remained one of a single dominant military actor enforcing its will overseas. This tension forces a critical question onto scholars. If global power today operates through diffuse, multinational flows, does the old framework of a center and a margin still possess explanatory power? For decades, foundational theorists like Frans Fanon and Edward Said built their critiques on a model of strict, geographically fixed binaries. This is a map of the British Empire up to 1914. The classical model relies on a defined imperial center, or metropole, acting as a territorial hub that systematically extracts resources and labor from a clearly highlighted periphery. That traditional structure is overt, requiring drawn borders on a map and stationed colonial governors to announce and enforce its authority. Globalization deterritorialized this imperial center, shifting the site of modern exploitation from geographic borders to institutional networks. Michael Hardt and Antonio Negri offer a model for this modern reality, which they simply call empire. They describe a globalized capitalist system that relies on no single territorial center and respects no fixed boundaries. Under this theory, the old hub-and-spoke map of a European capital commanding its colonies is replaced by a decentered, deterritorializing apparatus. Instead of brute force, this apparatus uses modulating networks of command, flexible hierarchies that manage fluid hybrid identities rather than subjugating them directly. Scholars like Susie O'Brien and Imre Semen argue that clinging to the old margin and center map prevents us from tracking how transnational capital operates across borders today. This fluid view of capital popularized the assumption, championed by commentators like Thomas Friedman, that globalization creates a flat world of equalized economic opportunities. But while the economy disperses, that perceived flatness often masks the persistent hierarchies that postcolonial theory was designed to expose. The idea of a purely borderless globe ignores the persistent centralization of U.S. military spending and financial market dominance. Economist Joseph Stiglitz rebats a flat world narrative by demonstrating how market fundamentalism concentrates wealth and authority into a few dominant central actors. Fernando Meirelles' 2005 film, The Constant Gardener, stages this exact tension between decentralized capital and highly centered political authority. The film's antagonist is a pharmaceutical multinational testing drugs on Kenyan citizens, operating through a diffuse web of NGOs, diplomats, and lawyers spread across 3 continents. The victims of this medical exploitation live in spaces peripheral to global capital, trapped on the physical margins of the modern economy. Yet the only characters with the agency to investigate or resist this network move through highly centralized institutions like the British Foreign Office or elite London law firms. While globalization disperses economic power, the post-colonial hierarchy dictating whose life counts in the global narrative remains firmly intact. Centralized power maintains a firm grip on the intellectual sphere through institutional policing, such as the AICTA report that branded critical scholarship as anti-American. Lobbying against area studies funding serves as a form of epistemic gatekeeping, designed to silence post-colonial critique at the university level. Noam Chomsky characterizes these massive corporate entities as private tyrannies that exert immense control while operating outside democratic or geographic oversight. The old colonial reflex to delegitimize and silence dissenting knowledge is alive and well, simply repurposed for the administrative age of globalization. Where academic theory struggles to map the human cost of this deterritorialized empire, post-colonial fiction provides a concrete theoretical laboratory. Scholar Suman Gupta developed a 5-point framework for literature's global movements. His 4th point highlights a recurring danger. Resistance movements often co-opt the market norms they fight. adopting the exact exploitative logic of the system they intended to dismantle. Different authors tackle this trap in distinct ways, contrasting Arundhati Roy's refusal of co-optation with Aravind Adiga's satirical masterclass in it. In The Ministry of Utmost Happiness, Roy focuses on characters who are structurally excluded from India's globalized growth story. Her Kashmiri separatists and displaced communities remain on the extreme margins, physically and politically segregated from the benefits of international trade. Roy's fiction demonstrates how global growth requires certain populations and territories to remain permanently peripheral. In The White Tiger, Aravind Adiga introduces Balram Halwai, a character who masters the globalized system rather than protesting it. Balram achieves social mobility through murder and bribery, mirroring the ruthless corruption of the economic structure he serves. The novel frames the outsourcing industry as a direct continuation of the old colonial master-servant dynamic, updated for English-speaking, westernized employers. The film's dark joke is that Balram escapes servitude only to become a globalized exploiter himself, replicating the exact hierarchy he just escaped. Balram's arc is the ultimate proof of Gupta's co-optation thesis. He merely changes the name on the desk rather than dismantling the master-servant relationship. Contemporary globalization creates a dual state where individuals are often simultaneously exploited by and complicit in the systems that manage them. This complexity reinforces Anya Lumba's mandate that rigorous critiques of both past and ongoing empires are more necessary now than ever. Postcolonial critique must relocate the center-margin framework from geography to institutional access. The historical metropolis have evolved into digital nodes of concentrated power. Today, power operates through call centers, drug trials, and funding reports, rather than announcing itself with a colonial governor's flag. Postcolonial studies must adapt its tools to track an empire that has learned how to hide in plain sight.